Welcome to another Minisode. You've learned how to mix your own seed mix. You've learned that it is time to start your seeds. And now we're going to help you with those and give you tips on how to run an indoor seed growing operation right here on the Backyard Gardens podcast.
To have a good harvest, one must plant good seeds and must also use the right kind of fertilizer. The carrots have grown large and firm. How good they will taste.
Welcome to the Backyard Gardens podcast, where we talk about all things gardening and give the information out for you to be successful in your garden, whether it's your first or your last. We are your hosts, Ben, the backyard gardener, and
Batavia, the front yard gardener.
one in the country,
One in the city.
Now get ready as we dig deep into this wonderful world of gardening as we learn to grow and grow for change. Minisodes.
Wait. Oh, that's still too long. Wait, let me.
It's still too long.
There you go.
Yep, there you go. The look of panic on your face when you hit it is worth it.
I hit it. I'm like, wait, it's not going to stop. I mean, well, no, I got to stop it. Okay, here we are.
Yeah.
All right.
So look, do you know everything there is to start seeds?
Absolutely,
Are you
I
an
do.
expert?
This is like a game show. I feel like I need to get my answer in. Like, survey says.
Hey, look, if these people have been listening to us for any time, they know that we are long-winded. This is a true
Test of the
feat
Titans,
of excellence. Man. Yeah.
All right. So grow lights.
So grow lights. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we'll start with the most important, grow lights. So you can use whatever kind of light you want other than an incandescent light. For years and years, I used the regular old Curly Cube CFL lights. Mm-hmm. Just, load up the bulbs on them. But, now I use LED lights, but I actually use a lower wattage LED light so I can have it closer to my plants. Okay. So, but basically what we want to tell you is you need to have your grow lights on for 16 hours a day. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So before you go there, do you know anyone that's successfully starting seeds indoors without grow lights and that are instead using a windowsill?
No.
Me either.
Because it's not enough sun. Yeah. It's not enough light. Yeah. So they get leggy.
Yeah. All right.
So
moving on.
Yeah, unless you lived in a greenhouse. Yeah, you got excited, didn't you?
I know. But I get so cold and irritable, so at some point it'd be sunny and I'd be freezing, so there's that. Oh, wait, they're heated greenhouses. Add it to the list, mm-hmm. Leonard. Okay.
Got it, Leonard.
16 hours, right?
16 hours on, whatever off. But when the seed first comes up, first breaks the soil, mm-hmm. leave your grow light on for 72 hours straight. Do not turn it off. I
don't do that. I mean, I'm only in year 2 of this game.
Maybe that's why you're having problems.
Hey, now, listen.
Do we need to relive the kale?
I started 60 tomato seeds. Let's not talk about those failures of the brassicas. Forget them.
It only takes one. It only takes one failure.
I actually have some things like lettuce. I checked before we started this afternoon, and there's your germination, baby. All right.
Leave them lights on.
Okay, whatever. So I paused because mine, I'd love to. You know how many times I've been like, wait a minute, that bedroom light's been on for the last 5 days? Yeah. It's on a timer. And it's hell for me to figure out how in the world to set those timers. So mine is set to go from 7 to whatever 16 hours from that is. So, you're not going to mess up my flow. Take his recommendation, though.
Yeah, it's kind of a bitch. Mm-hmm. So I either leave them on for 48 or 72 hours. Mm-hmm. And the reason why is because you can't replicate the power of the sun. Yeah. It's just not possible.
The intensity, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the intensity of it. So what you're doing is you're giving that seedling as much food as you can because the sun is food. And you're feeding it as much as you can at first and just gives it off to a better start. Do what you want. My whole theory is, and it seems like I did it the other day, my seedling popped up at 7 o'clock at night. Mm-hmm. And then in 3 hours, it was going to go off. Yeah. So it's like, okay, so it just comes up and then it stays dark.
Yeah, it's an excellent point.
And it's like,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's like I just leave them on. Yeah. So
now that becomes harder though when you're starting more seeds. Just as a note, though, if you're staggering what you're starting, that becomes a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, it's kind of a bitch, and that's what I'm dealing with now. And so, I mean, if I had to, I would just leave the whole light system on for 48 hours. I mean, it's not going to kill them to get too much light.
Yeah. Okay.
So
covered grow lights. I am using what is it? Daylight light bulbs.
Yeah.
I think the highest. It's just regular. What do they call them? The auto lamps. What are they called?
What?
The regular light bulbs, like that you shop lights. That's what they're called.
Yeah, the shop lights.
Minisode, quiet it down. Because back to intensity, right? So I think it's like 2,000 plus lumens. I saw as a recommendation, and I found those 6,500 Kelvin rating. So that's as bright as it's going to get. It's in a spot where it's really convenient for me because it's not interrupting my daily life. Yeah. Check. Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, see, for me, it's like I didn't want to use shop lights because the bulbs are harder to find. And the problem with them is over time, they still emit light, but they get weaker. And LED lights have come way down in price. So I went on Amazon and I got some, I think it's like Minios or something, Minios. And they're just like LED strips of grow lights, full spectrum, because you want to try and get full spectrum if you can. And it was like, I got 6 4-foot lights for $80. So
is it the bulb or the full light?
It's a full fixture.
Okay, that's good because
and you can daisy chain them together. So meaning you can plug one light into. You can have one cord for all 6 lights. They're pretty easy. And I had them last year, but they had the purple light. And I didn't like the purple light because it made me feel like I was losing my mind. So I just got the regular yellow.
Yeah.
And so far, everything is growing fine.
Just a note, the amount of time and hours that I've spent in my lifetime watching HGTV, you should know that you don't have to explain to me daisy chains. All right. Yeah. The shop light thing, I was slow to come to it. Like I couldn't get that out of my head, but
maybe I'm not explaining to you. Maybe I'm explaining to our wonderful listeners.
Maybe, but I need you to respect my experience going through decades of HGTV and home improvement.
And
I've actually
Sassy Batavia is back.
I've actually been called Bob Vila, sometimes Batavia Vila. So I'm just telling you, here we are.
I hear you.
But I do want to tell a quick story because, gosh, the pressure. Oh. All right. So I did separate the light canister or the receptacle and the light bulbs. And it was a pain in the butt trying to find the ones I wanted to find. And I wanted, obviously, to be able to plug them in. But unfortunately, after spending hours with the Home Depot associate a couple of years ago, I got home, thought I had everything set up, and they were direct wired. And I'm not... The episodes that I watch on HGTV ain't those, So,
no.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, that would annoy the piss out of me. A lot of times people at Home Depot or Lowe's or something will steer you in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
But that's okay. So we got to talk about fertilization. Easy enough. Do you want to take this or you want me to?
You can take it because we're going to start talking about the strength. And I just don't want to lie to people I don't really do this well. So
yeah, so it's after the first true leaves come up, a week after they come up, you fertilize. That's how I do it. And then I fertilize every 10 to 14 days after that with a diluted light strength liquid soluble fertilizer, water soluble. Don't use an organic pellet or anything because it will never feed it. Because organic, and I've said this on the podcast before, but organic pellets have to break down and compost, basically decompose in order to feed. You want a water soluble. So what do I use? What do you think I use? Neptune's fish seaweed fertilizer.
Well, goodness, I didn't know in the mini episodes we weren't going to get a chance to answer questions, but okay.
Well, hey, look, we're running out of time and we got another tip, so I got to keep this thing moving. Yeah. And there's directions on the bottle for the fish seaweed fertilizer that will tell you how to use it in your house, and it does not smell.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you use it like in my greenhouse like I did the other day, full strength, and then I locked it up and went in there, and I almost puked when I went in there. So it was a little rough.
Last summer when I was using it in the backyard, because I'd share a fence with a neighbor, I'd see her come out and I'd say, hey, just so you know, I'm fertilizing today. It's going to smell. You're going to see some flies, but it won't last forever.
Yeah. It just goes away. So, but that's what I use. Now, you can use whatever you want. Water soluble, just make sure you dilute it or else you will burn the plants because these are tender babies.
And we kind of talked about the feeding of plants and kind of what's available to feed them and not in an earlier Minisode when we were starting a seed mix. So keep that in mind.
Keep it in mind. And then watering. So watering is a tricky one when you're doing seedlings.
Yeah.
Now, go ahead.
I was just going to say this, though, speaks to my nurturing side, right? Like you're rocking and rolling when you're at the place where you're starting to water things again. It's no different than your outside garden, though. Everything doesn't need the same amount of water. You're not going to water everything at the same time because there's so little soil in most of these, seed starting trays and pots and things. You need to be careful and not let things dry out because that could be the end of it. So you want to stay on top of it. I mentioned this before. I almost religiously bottom water. So I think Ben, you do this at, what did I call you? Ben, you do this at...
You call me the Ben. So...
this Minisode. What's the clock running out?
Yeah, it
you
is.
Do it differently.
Keep going.
Right, so...
Yeah, well, I do it with a top water, and then I let it sit in what's left for a while.
The key, though, is make sure you pour that water out once it's drained out. It doesn't have to be an hour later, but don't let that sit there for days.
Yes. And the other thing, too, is don't start your seed in too big of a pot. So I know some people that have learned the hard way about this, and there is a technique to doing that, but we're just going to let that one go for now. What we want to do is you want to take and put it, don't be afraid to have to pot up your seedling, because what will end up happening is once the roots fill up and it gets real strong, then you can pot it in maybe some more potting mix, like a potting mix, or maybe you want to put some seed starting mix, some more compost, something that will help it feed more on its own and have more soil. So, take care of that and plan out which ones you're going to want to pot up and which ones you're not going to need to.
Yeah, and be obedient when it comes to this. I was full on, why would I waste the time potting up? Like, why don't just start where I want to be? And that's not how this thing works, so it actually is not that bad of a process. I potted up all 60 of those, tomato plants back last year. So it's a part of the process. And also, when we talked about not starting seeds too early, feeds into that too.
Yeah. And what else are you going to do in the middle of winter? I would look forward to potting up personally.
Potted up.
Except for it can be kind of a bitch, but
I feel like you rushed me all the way through this, and we have 15 seconds to kill here.
15 whole seconds. So let's recap the big tips. Grow light, 16 hours on minimum. Okay. Fertilization every 10 to 14 days after the true leaves come. Diluted, liquid, soluble fertilizer.
Check.
Don't overwater. Bottom watering is preferable. And not all things need to be watered at once, but pay very close attention to your watering.
Check.
Because if not, you'll get fungus gnats and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yuck. So, okay. Minisode complete. Just under the time. Everybody, have a beautiful day. Have fun in your gardens this week. Stay strong. Stay warm. Be ready because it's coming. Spring is on its way. And until next time.
See ya.
Thanks for hanging out with us today. If you want to see what we're up to or just stay up to date on all the announcements regarding the show or anything gardening, then you can follow us on Instagram at Backyard Gardens TV.
We love seeing what you guys are doing, so use hashtag BYG Podcast in your posts, and we'll be sharing your gardens with the Backyard Gardens community.
And check us out on YouTube at Backyard Gardens, where we will post this show, all of our other shows, clips, and then also some gardening tips and just gardening entertainment. And you can see us at our website at backyardgardenstv.com. But that's it for today's show. So help us as we learn to grow and grow for change. And until next time, We'll catch you guys later. We'll call this one a wrap.
Now you know why people feel like celebrating at harvest time.
All over the world, people have feasting and good times when the crops have been gathered in.